Welcome back. Welcome back, guys. We are at the pointy end of this event, which makes me a little bit sad, to be honest, because I am so jived just to get out there and actually just to make a massive impact. You know, not only in my job, but also, you know, in helping everyone else get to where they want to get to. So I am so pumped. And I cannot even tell you how excited I am for this segment, because Amy Clark, now I'm just going to rewind it a little bit, because Amy is actually, someone that I have followed for, I would guess, say a year. She has the most incredible, energetic, like electric energy about her. She is just so super sweet, so incredible about her job. But I'm not going to, you know, don't listen to me. I'm actually going to read her bio, give you more information. Just to let you know as well that this session is actually on the media landscape and what it takes to be an editor in this current landscape that we're in at the moment. So as I mentioned before, we're joined by Amy Clark. Now, Amy is currently the senior editor at Adore Beauty. Yes, that Adore Beauty, you know, Australia's fastest growing online beauty retailer. You know, so what does that actually mean? Well, it means that she will put just about anything on her face. And it's true, I'm a testament to that. And body and hair, and you know, you kind of get the idea. She'll do anything and everything for her job. And previously, Amy was the senior lifestyle content producer at Australian women's media company Mamamia. She was actually the host of the You Beauty podcast. And I must admit, there has been many times when I've reached for my wallet after listening to Amy talk on that podcast, or even through her Instagram stories. So I know that a lot of you have actually heard and listened to Amy over the years. So Amy, let's bring you live. Welcome to the CareerCon stage. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Very good. I don't usually get glammed up like this in this post-COVID life.
Tell me about it. You know, I think we're going to get straight into some really great questions, Amy, because I think, you know, we're going to have quite a lit Q&A box that's already starting to sort of pop up in my peripheral vision. So let's just, you know, can you take us back to, you know, Amy, and we grew up, because I know that it's different to where you're living now. You know, can you just sort of take us back to that time at school, explain who you were and what it was that you were interested in, and then kind of what ultimately made you choose the further education path that you went down?
I'm from Adelaide, so, you know, shout out to anyone down in South Australia. I'm from Adelaide, and what was I like at school? I loved choir. I loved playing sport. I was really just that typical, like, all-rounder kind of student. I loved school. I loved the social aspect of school, and I guess I always loved English and writing. Mm-hmm. So that's probably, I know it's pretty cliche for any journalist writer to say that they loved English, but I did. But then I also, I think I had quite kind of lofty aspirations for what I would do for my career in terms of, you know, I sat the tests that you've got to do if you're going to be a doctor, because I just thought, oh, yeah, like, what's a pretty important job? Doctor. So I sat that. I was terrible at it. I did work experience at the Royal Adelaide Hospital, and I fainted as soon as they put me in the gear. So I knew pretty, you know, early on after that I wasn't going to be a doctor. But yeah, I think I loved English and drama, those kinds of, and languages. I did German as well. Went on a German exchange. But there was always something that was pulling me towards, oh, this is what you should be doing. You know, being a writer isn't, you know, serious or professional enough. So in year 12, I did chemistry and biology, psychology, like all those kind of those typical, like, hard subjects. So I did that. And then I think probably because of the expectations that I had on myself to have the big important job that saves lives and makes the world a better place. But then I realised I wasn't ready to go to uni to do that. So I took 2.5 gap years in the end. So I ended up, when I finally got to uni, I was a little bit older, probably like 24. But I went to Ecuador. I worked for the first year and went to Ecuador to be a Spanish language teacher. Never done Spanish before. But I just decided to do that because I thought, volunteering is like something I should do. And then also I came back home, still wasn't ready to be enrolling in uni. I went and thought I'm going to do another year traveling. So I went to Europe by myself for about 9 months. Came back and thought, okay, I'm ready to go to uni now. I'm going to be a foreign correspondent, or I'm going to be a very serious journalist. So I enrolled at Adelaide Uni and was doing a double degree in media and international relations, I think. Got through a year of that and really I personally didn't enjoy uni that much, to be honest. I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit. But and then I ended up deferring again in the second week of my second year, deferred again, went traveling again, came back, and finally I guess came to that realization in myself that, okay, it's actually, still worthy to want to be a lifestyle writer or a beauty writer or, a journalist that writes about, women's topics, So then I deferred to Uni SA and did my Bachelor in Journalism. And that's kind of, I think I've rabbited on in that sense enough.
No, that was awesome because I love, and I'm actually going to, let's just backpedal a little bit to what you mentioned about this whole gap year thing because, I'm going to be honest with you, there's been so many speakers over the past 2 days that have gone from straight to school, straight to uni. What was it in your last couple of years at high school that made you think, do you know what, I'm actually just going to take a bit of a break here? Like why were you one of those people that thought that?
I think part of it was not being ready to go to uni yet. I wanted to work. I've always had a part-time job of sorts. My stepmom, got me into the workforce around age 15 and I hated it at the time, but I'm really grateful that she made me do that because that kind of has instilled a work ethic in me, I think. And so I wanted to just work, save up a lot of money, go traveling, and I guess I thought at the time I want to do this while I'm young, and then when I came back I still wasn't ready, so I thought I'll just go again. Uni will always be there. I don't regret taking so long to get to uni because I had a lot of really amazing experiences, and working and traveling on my own is something that has served me well. Moving states, which I did. But part of me thinks, I could have got probably just done 1 year or like 1.5 years, not 2.5, 3 years.
Oh, well, I tell you what, it's led to you to where you are now. And I guess, even from, I didn't do a gap year, but even from just some travels that I've made, to Europe or just some long-term travels, just the things that I've actually was experiencing that I could bring home and be like, do you know what? In Italy, actually, people sleep from like midday onwards. So why can't I do that in my job? That never happened, but no, thank you for explaining that. And I know that you mentioned before that you didn't actually like uni. Can you explain that to us? What didn't you like about it?
I don't know. I think it's the same thing as when I started my first full-time job. I just having a lot of my friends already gone to uni and they were doing courses where the cohort kind of stays together and you have all your classes together and you make amazing friends. So they were doing things like law or speech pathology, to be a physio, those kinds of things. So, but because I enrolled, a lot of arts degrees and comms degrees, you don't have that. You don't have, you might be lucky to make some friends, but I think I got there on the first day and was expecting to meet like my best friend and, realized pretty quickly, like this isn't what was sold to me. about going to uni and just having a friendship group and going out together and studying together and doing all these things. But the other thing that I, and this was in the double degree, but also when I did move over to the journalism degree, I think it is a lot of theory, and which is great, but not much practical stuff in the journalism media degrees, or it was when I was there. So I think I was just kind of sitting there and thinking, surely there's like other things I could be learning, other skills. Why aren't we doing more? One of my favorite subjects was a radio subject where you actually did get to get on the tools and, make your own show, any of the ones where you had to go out and do video journalism and stuff. Those were the things that I loved, but the rest, it kind of felt like just ticking boxes to, have a degree as such. And I just didn't really enjoy it. And I think because I had been working, and it probably in my second to last year of uni, I started picking up some freelance work in the creative industry, like advertising, digital marketing. That was way more exciting, and I felt like that was gonna get me further. And I was like, I want to be able to work. I don't want to have to sit in this lecture. And everyone's different and every course is different, but thankfully a lot of my tutors and lecturers were kind of like, if you said to them, hey, like I've got a paying gig in this area, they were like, take the job, do not give up paid work in writing, advertising, make those connections, but still hand everything in. But I do feel very much that I had to get it done. And I do think in journalism and a lot of those journalism, advertising, things like that, the piece of paper is kind of something that you just have to have. But I didn't really, I don't think I really learnt much about being a writer or being a journalist until I actually got on the job. And then, but at least I had the backing of, having to stick something out and actually having to do things that you don't want to do. I think that was probably the lesson that I took out of uni.
It's such a crazy thing, because I was exposed to so many, and I was interested in so many American movies growing up, and so I was the same. I kind of thought that I would get to this college or this university and there'd be like things to do, and I'd be in the same kind of room with a lot of people. I actually had the same kind of experience where I was like, this is awful. Like it just kind of didn't really, and I was sort of,
and I think I'd spend the day there, say like a day of uni, and I'd almost talk to I'm a talkative kind of person, but there could be times when you would just walk into the class, sit down, not speak to anyone or have any kind of interaction. I was just like, wasn't what I thought.
Oh, I know. Well, I would love to. I'm going to keep on going with some of our questions, Amy, but there is so many questions coming through from the Q&A box as well, and I'd love to get to those. So I guess the next question that I'd love to sort of, touch on is, you did go from studying and then I'm sure that there's lots of stuff in the middle, but how did you get your job at Mamamia? How did that sort of, happen and transpose over?
So that happened in my last year of uni. I did an internship at Mamamia. So I, came over to Sydney for 2 weeks and did the internship at the Sydney office. And after that, I went home, I finished the degree. I do wish I could have done more internships. I think that's one thing if I had my time again, I'd do more, because I think that's just the key to landing a job after uni. But then once I graduated and it was about that time to start applying for jobs and getting my LinkedIn sorted and all those things, I just contacted the person who was my intern supervisor at the time, asked if they would be a referee on my resume, and they said, we're actually hiring for these 2 roles. One role was a weekend content producer role and the other was an editorial assistant role. So I ended up applying. I applied for both. I got through right to the end for the editorial assistant role. I was actually told I came down to the final 2 and I didn't actually get it. And it was right before Christmas of 2020. think it was 2016 Christmas, and I was really bummed. I didn't get it. I was told, it came down to the last two, blah, blah, blah. And then after Christmas, came home, madly started applying for jobs, probably applied for about 50 jobs in, journalism, marketing, social media, anything. And I remember just at the end, it was probably like Friday at like 4:00 or something. I'd just been sat there applying for jobs all day, and the phone rang, and it was, hey, it was Mamamia, the role. Turns out, whatever happened to the other person, but the job's yours if you want it. So then a month later, I moved to Sydney, and that's where it started.
Wow, I love that story, and I love that you mentioned that you wish that you'd had completed more work experience, because I just think people see you're in the industry, you're in that job that you want to be in, and if you play your cards right, there's just such amazing opportunities that can come from that. So thanks for explaining that. I'm gonna head into these questions, Amy, because there is so many of them. The first one that this is a great one. This first one we haven't really spoken about. The kind of actually, I'm just going to go straight into the question. So this is from Anonymous. How do you have the confidence on screen, like in your Instagram stories?
Oh, I think that just comes from practice, and I think putting yourself out there, it's part of being a writer in 2020. I think a lot of the times is so much of ourselves, our personality and ourselves goes into our work, and it's kind of like some professions perhaps there's quite a split, work is work and home is home, but I think in creative industries the line is so blurred. And so I decided to start doing Insta stories and things like that, and I guess how I got the confidence to do it is to just put it up, even if I thought it was going to be shit. Just put it up. And the feedback that I've always had from whether it's followers or people that have read my work on Mamamia or now Adore Beauty from the podcast is like no one wants perfect, because perfect isn't real. And, real people say and real people kind of stuff up their words and get things wrong. Real people have their face way too close to the camera or the wrong angle so you can see up their nostrils. So I think the more I just went with it and I had such positive feedback, and I was like, okay, I should just be me, and I'm not super polished. And I think that's probably where the confidence comes from, is just, okay, I'm just gonna put this out there and see what sticks.
No, great, wonderful. Thanks for explaining that too. And you're right. You should see the setup that I have in front of me right now. Like, it might look, kind of professional, but who is anyone if they don't have, reams of paper boosting up their laptop, So,
absolutely. Or pajama pants on the bottom.
That's right. Oh, good on you. All right. The next question comes from Anonymous, and it is, I don't have an undergrad degree in journalism, but I do have a passion for writing. How do you get experience to break into the industry without a degree?
I think, well, now more than ever, I mean, probably 5-10 years ago, it was blogs. That was, that was the way that people got their work published, was just by self-publishing. Now we have Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, although I feel like I'm far not technologically advanced for TikTok. But I think putting out your own work on your own platform, whether it be a website, whether it be you want to write, short work on Instagram, doing that, even though it's not with a title or you're not getting paid to do that, at least you've got somewhere where your work lives. And then what you can do is, freelancers, a lot of freelancers and a lot of writers can get their chance just by pitching to publications and starting to work more on that kind of freelance commission basis. Mm-hmm. And what that involves is and one of the things, if we were going to talk about skills, I think one of the most important skills if you want to have your work published is to know how to pitch and know how to pitch well, pitch your stories well. But to at least have something, whether it be on your LinkedIn or your Instagram or on a website that you make for yourself, where you've got work that you can link to and say, here's what I've written before, here's what I've done before. I think that's probably the best way. I mean, if I'm commissioning someone, it doesn't really, I don't need someone to have a degree for me to commission them. It just needs to be a good story that's been sold into me well. You know, if someone pitches to me a great story with a great headline and very succinct kind of recap of what the story is, you know, editors and writers, you know, we're always looking for ideas and for the next good story. So it doesn't really matter at that stage. And then once you start to get your work published, then I think that is, you're starting to build a bit of a portfolio, and then that can help you when you're applying for jobs from more like permanent work nature.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh, that's awesome. That's so many tips in that one little answer there, Amy. So thank you. And I think you're right, you know, learning to pitch, wow, that is just a great skill. So thank you for raising that as well, because it was a question that we didn't get through before, but we have so many more to go. So let me just dive into another one. Do you think someone with a business management background has a chance in journalism?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, to be honest, like having any degree is going to help, whether it's a marketing degree or a business degree, a law degree. You know, it's just, I think, kind of the reality of the current situation. And this could very well change in 5-10 years' time when, because of technology and social media, you know, all the credibility you need is starting to be that you make for yourself online and your online presence. But for the most part, in my experience at the moment, having a degree is kind of just that, you know, first step. But again, it's like, I think even if you do have, say, a business degree, if you're, you know, pitching well, if you start pitching to publications, self-publishing your own work, or having your work published by whether it's digital publications, you know, a lot of retailers have publications now, all of that, then, you know, that kind of, I think that's enough. It doesn't need to be just a journalism degree. I've known plenty of people that have gotten into writing that did psychology at uni, or they did law, or they did, I don't know, other stuff.
Other stuff. Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you. Another question that we've got here is, what are the biggest challenges you have faced so far in your professional working career? Does the future scare you? Example, does the future scare you? For example, how COVID will impact on your career?
I would say, to answer the second part first, what scares me about how coronavirus is going to impact my career is more just from the way we work, in terms of, you know, currently at Adore, you know, all my colleagues are in Melbourne, you know, kind of bunkering down and getting through that time in Melbourne, and you know, who knows when I'm going to meet them, who knows when I'm going to be back in an office. And I think that's probably more what, like, quote unquote, scares me, because I'm the kind of person that needs to have somewhere to go. I need, you know, I work really well with structure, and, you know, working from home, it can be hard to find that structure and focus, and then just the social interactions. I think that's probably more what scares me in the short term. I mean, I made the move from publishing to, you know, brand side. So, you know, a lot of journalists and writers have been made redundant since COVID. And it's, you know, so I feel like I've made the move at the right time to come brand side. But, you know, I think the main thing also is just that everyone's probably stressed about is, am I going to have a job? you know, it kind of, that's basically the simple nature of it. And then in terms of challenges, I think the biggest challenge that I've faced is, I guess, dealing with criticism and rejection and negative feedback, whether that is in the work environment, in terms of, you know, your editor giving you feedback on a story, or, you know, being given feedback on a pitch, or if you are doing, say, a podcast or you do YouTube, you also get a bunch of really lovely negative feedback from people who have never met you. And that's just part of what we do. You know, if you put yourself out there and you get so many amazing benefits from that, the flip side is people are going to have their opinions about you. And so I think the first, in regards to, say, when I was an editorial assistant and when I was pitching and, say, my ideas didn't get chosen that day, you know, you've got to, the challenge is to not take it personally. You know, there's always, and ideas are always so subjective, right? So what I think is an amazing pitch, you know, to my editor, who is thinking about the day's content in the context of what's going on in the news, what have we already got, what holes do we need to fill. A lot of the times when someone says no to your pitch, it's not about you at all. It's really not got anything to do with you. It's got to do with, you know, what's right for our publication on any given day. And you know, so that was, I used to get stuck on that quite a bit and go, why do I keep getting rejected? Or I write something and then the editor might make a fair number of changes, you know, and that's something still to this day, you know, it's, ideas and pitches and things are very personal. You know, whether you're writing about opinion or news or lifestyle or beauty, you know, it's hard not to take it personally, but the more you can kind of try and separate the emotion from it, the more you can use that as an opportunity to just keep making your pitches better. So, you know, from taking the learning from why that story didn't get picked up and taking that into your pitch for the next day, making your next day's pitch better. In terms of feedback that comes from, you know, the public or, you know, Facebook comments, those kinds of things, it used to really get to me a lot, and I think you'd be like a robot if it didn't get to you when someone's saying, oh, this girl sounds like she's 12, or how does she know anything? You know, she's only, you know, I do have a bit of a baby face, so often I'm 28, but often people would be like, this 21-year-old, what does she know? Stuff like that. You just have to learn to recognise what's the feedback worth taking on and what's the feedback that actually has, again, nothing to do with you and has everything to do with the person that's giving you that feedback. But it is tough, but you kind of get used to it, and I think the pros outweigh the cons eventually.
Wow. That's awesome. You know, and you're right, the pros do, you know, overshadow everything. And I guess too, you know, you build yourself up to be more of a resilient person, especially in the media. And I think that's one thing that we need to sort of highlight here, that, you know, I know that we didn't get into talking about skills, but, you know, this whole resilience thing, we have so many questions that have popped up about pitching. You know, so, you know, being resilient and, you know, taking the yeses and the nos and moving forward every day, I guess, is something that you'd have to work on in your industry as well. We've got some really great questions about pitching, so I'm kind of going to join a couple of them together for you, Amy. So I guess, what is your number one tip for pitching yourself and your work?
So my number one tip is to, if I know we talk about like an elevator pitch in certain things, but when you're pitching a story or pitching yourself to a publication, you know, saying, hi, like, I'm a writer, I write about these things, blah, 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 you've really got such a small window to grab someone's attention. And, you know, something I've realized moving brand side into the retail beauty space is, you know, I get far less emails now than in terms of just the daily influx of emails in your inbox. If you're an editor, a journalist, a writer, the number of pitches, the sheer volume of emails that you receive means that you really skim read a lot. Some you don't even open. I know that sounds really like shattering. Some you just don't even open, and it comes down to the subject line. So the first, the subject line in the email when you open it with the pitch, there should be a headline already. So the headline that grabs my attention and tells me what this story is about, and then maybe just a few dot points that outline what it is. A lot of the time people might send a pitch and they really, they want to make sure that they get all the information in there and that it all comes across. But if I open a pitch and there's a chunk of text this long, and it hasn't already grabbed my attention from the first few lines, the chances are that it just won't get read. And so to be really succinct in that way, so spend time coming up with good headlines for your pitch. Pitch it how you envision it to look on the site. Another tip would be to, I guess, do your research about the publication that you're pitching to, because again, editors and writers, you can have, we'd know quite quickly whether something's going to be for us or not. And so you can tell, for example, with Mamamia, we don't do stories about weight loss and things like that. And so if I was ever pitched any stories about, weight loss transformations or anything, I just either wouldn't open them or they go straight in the bin, because that person hasn't done their research to know that we don't cover those topics. So knowing who who the audience is really important. I think that kind of sums it up. It's got to be short, sharp and shiny.
Yeah, no, that's such a great tip. And I must admit, even myself, pitching is such an incredible art, I think. Like and it's something that I'm so happy that you actually brought it up, because it's just, even when reaching out to people on LinkedIn, or when you want to ask someone for work experience advice, you're pitching constantly. So I love that you brought that up, Amy. Okay. Okay. Do you frequently post on LinkedIn to share your work, and how do you find the courage to do so? We've kind of spoken about pitching.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I don't, to be honest, I don't use LinkedIn that much at the moment. I used it a lot when I was looking for a job, and I just keep it up. Although now I'm thinking, I don't know if I've done my latest update. It's something that I've used as a tool to get there. So I don't really post, for example, the articles that I do on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn also isn't my main audience. I guess, my main audience is Instagram. And so that's where I post. So it's same deal, essentially. I post my work on Instagram. And I mean, having the courage to do so, I think it's, for example, when I was writing, at a publication, there's the pitches that you get to write, that you've pitched and you get to write about and follow through, that you're really proud of. Sometimes you have to write about things you don't really care about, or you don't want to write about. If I've written something and I'm really proud of it, then why wouldn't I want to, put that out there and put my hand up and said, yeah, I did this. I think you have to just kind of be a little bit cocky in that way, in that, you put it up and, what's the worst that can happen? Like, really, what's the worst that can happen? I've had a lot of, worst case things that have happened. But sharing my work with people isn't one of them, because you also know that you can't please everyone. Especially with writing, your writing isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but there's going to be a group of people that really resonate with what you do. And so you're putting it up for them. You're not putting it up for anybody else.
Yeah. Oh, such important things to remember as well. We aren't going too well for time, Amy, but I am going to ask you just one more of the questions. But I wanted to just pop in. If we haven't got to the questions that are in the Q&A box, can they reach out to you and potentially ask them off CareerCon?
Yeah, absolutely. Slide into my DMs.
Okay, awesome. There's your invitation, everyone. So yes, I love this question. This is why I really wanted to get to it. But Anonymous has said that she goes, I love this. Do you have any advice for getting your writing published, please, as a freelancer, but not as a staff writer?
Yeah, I think, again, it comes down to pitching. What you can do, because you say, okay, you're going to pitch, but where do I send this email? Who do I send it to? I mean, something that I've used, I have used Instagram to reach out to people. And I think, you know, in these times, like, it's one of the best things I think about Instagram is say, and this isn't to say that just because you message an editor that they're going to either get back to you or that they're going to pick up your story, but also you have nothing to lose, and they might. So, for example, I have, you know, I've people that I feel like I never would have met in real life, other editors or, you know, people that I've looked up to in the beauty industry. I've been able to connect with them on Instagram just by literally either liking their photos. It's kind of like dating, liking their photos for a bit and then going, oh, I love this, or putting some kind of comment in there, starting a dialogue. But that, you know, that's a way you can do it, is to just contact, you know, follow people, follow the editors of publications on Instagram, you know, follow the writers. A lot of writers for publications will have their email contact with their byline, so you can email them directly from there, and then just keep pitching. Like, even when you get rejected, you've just got to keep going, and sometimes it's a numbers game. You know, how you know, keep going, and then statistically someone is going to get back to you. And once you've had that first piece published, you know, it gets a lot easier, because you can say, I was published here, or here's where you can read my other published work, and it just kind of grows from there. But yeah, definitely, I think reach out to people, and the worst that happens is they don't get back to you, and then you can contact them again.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just circling back to what you mentioned before about relevance and knowing who it is that you're pitching to. Like, don't pitch to Mamamia if you've got a story about, you know, weight loss, like you mentioned before. So, you know, doing your research and diving in and having a look at who you're pitching to. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, you know, really tailor your pitches to the publication. So, for example, if you're pitching somewhere like Mamamia love a first-person take on whether it's something in the news or a first-person experience, whereas somewhere like the Sydney Morning Herald, they might want something that's a bit more kind of overview, kind of look at something. So yeah, have a look at read the publications that you want to pitch to.
Yeah, awesome. And Amy, we're just going to finish off with one last question, because we missed this from before, but I'd love to know if anyone is watching right now and they want a career, you know, whether it is at Mamamia, maybe they want to be on a podcast, or maybe they want to be an editor like you at Adore Beauty. What's one thing that they can do right now that will help them get into that industry?
I think, you know, the main thing that and the advice that I think I would give to myself as well is like say yes to opportunities when they pop up, even if you think that even if you know that you don't know how to do what someone is asking you to do, or even if you think, oh, I don't have enough experience to do this, or I don't feel confident. Saying yes and putting your hand up for everything is like a guaranteed way to kind of get yourself further, because it's like a series of doors and windows. You know, you say yes to one thing, you have that experience, then you say yes to the next thing, then someone thinks of you for the next thing. You know, that's kind of how I started on the You Beauty podcast. Was I hadn't done a podcast before, but they said, do you want to do it? And I thought, yeah, okay. And I was absolutely shit scared. But, you know, I think you've got to say yes to the opportunities when they come, and don't let your own fear of not being able to do it well enough, not knowing enough, hold you back, because you can also ask questions. You know, no one's expecting you to know everything.
Oh, well, there you have it, guys. Like, honestly, that's like a tiny smidgen of Amy Clark. Like, you know, can you please fly to Melbourne, sit in my lounge room and continue the rest of the conversation? Because I would love that. No, it's all true. It's all true. I mean, I wish we had more time, but unfortunately we don't. So thank you for being a part of CareerCon. I'm glad that my pitch to you worked. And,
yes.
and thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And guys, make sure that you slide into her DMs. There's your invitation. So thanks, Amy. Thanks for joining us. No worries. Bye.